Hi, I'm Ryan Grove. This is my wife Tiffany Grove. We've been having a really strange conversation about the nature of the shape of the earth. And before we get going, I have to apologize because we watched the previous episode before we make a new, or session or whatever, before we make a new one. And upon hearing some of the previous ones, I realized that I rarely finish sentences, that I stammer and stutter, and I'm kind of incoherent. And I am a veteran of the stage, and I've done many performances where I've been able to exhibit dialogue and communication without those irritating nuances, to be kind. And so I just want you to know that I'm going to try really hard.
Not to hem and haw.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's exactly right.
I like it.
Okay. So, my dear wife, I see you have your little phone with all sorts of things to talk about already, so I'll let you begin.
Well, last time you kind of harangued me about Genesis in regard to a flat earth. And so I just kind of wanted to come back and express what I think about when I hear Genesis 1. But I want to start out with just Christ as being the light. Psalms 104:2, who covereth thyself with light as with a garment, who stretches out the heavens like a curtain. Isaiah 9:2, the people that walked in darkness have seen a light. They that dwell in the land of the shadow of death, upon them hath the light shined. And the light of Israel shall be for a fire, and his Holy One for a flame, and it shall burn and devour his thorns and his briars in one day. And Isaiah has a few more verses, well, quite a few, but I was going to skip forward into John. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. That was the true light, which lighteth every man that cometh into the world. Then Jesus again unto them, saying, I am the light of the world. He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. And so when we read Genesis 1, it says, Genesis 1, in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God, which is the Holy Spirit, moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, now Christ is considered the Word.
Mm-hmm.
So when God speaks, this is Christ. God said, and then let there be light, which is the introduction of Christ onto the stage. And there was light, and that's how the entire universe and our world today was created by Jesus. So what I see there is the establishment of the Trinity from the very first chapter of the Bible. That's what I wanted to point out.
That's a great message, and that's an important one. Sort of how does that? I mean, it's clearly independent of a flat Earth.
I don't
topic,
see
I
that
guess.
as this is the way that the Earth is formed or shaped.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. But do you have Genesis? Do you want to read real quick the 6 days of creation and the seventh being the day of rest? Just real quick, because
Why
there's a few
everybody
things.
has read
No,
that.
no, no. Just yeah, but we vaguely. I said I wasn't going to do this. You see, we vaguely remember the details because the narrative is so poignant, and that's what most of us remember. So, just for the sake of conjuring up the details, it's the details that I wish to emphasize in my next point. So, if you'd be so kind, you read those other Bible verses lovely. Perhaps
Well,
you could indulge me.
There's two creation accounts. So do you want Genesis 1 or do you want Genesis 2.
No, let's just go with Genesis 1.
All right, because they're not in the same order as Genesis 2.
Okay.
But
Then we can go into Genesis 2, and so that we'll have sort of an understanding of the contrast between the two before we proceed with the next part of our conversation.
And God saw the light that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness, and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. And God said, Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. And the evening and the morning were the second day. Is that it? Or you want to go on?
Yeah, go on.
And God said, Let the waters under the heaven be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas. And God saw that it was good. And God said, Let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass and herb yielding seed after its kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself, and after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the third day. Go on.
Mm-hmm.
And God said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and seasons and days and years.
Okay. Not that I have any specific tricky direction. This is not going to be a loaded question. There's, for either of our perspectives, there's some interesting things that should be pointed out. In that there was light first, right? And then there's plants, but plants can't exist without sunlight.
Well, we think,
and then not until the fourth day is the sun and the moon actually even made, and that so that's something
that there's
perplexing.
Light in a black hole and light emitted at the Big Bang. So,
well, here's something else that I think of when I hear that is that, remember, like a few installments ago, where I talked about how there's two daylights, like the sun itself, which actually causes shadows and it's the sun, and then behind it is the argon layer above the ozone layer that's being excited electromagnetically, and how I said that there's two kinds of daylight. There's actually the direct light coming from the sun, but then there's sort of a neonish glow that is the sky during the daytime, and that perhaps that is the difference being illustrated here in light in the physiological world by that sky, because when he separated the waters, above from below, and made the firmament and stuff, that perhaps he was through electromagnetics, the layer above the ozone layer was being excited and turned blue, and maybe that was the first light. And it wasn't until the fourth day that he actually put the sun into it. I don't know. That's something to think about. But thanks for reading that. Yeah, that's cool. If you want to read, that's actually the point I wanted to make.
Okay,
I just wanted to
good,
bring attention
I
to.
want to keep it in.
Okay, good. So, I've talked enough for now.
Well, again, I just don't think that indicates that we need to think about that passage as if the earth were flat.
You don't think that the Bible is if you do you remember those mind's eye pictures or magic eye from the 90s?
Yes, I do.
For those of you who don't know, they were these digital images that were like in newspapers, and there were books of them, like Walden Books or something. And each picture, if you just looked at it, when you opened the book and looked at it, it just seemed like a bunch of digital mumbo jumbo. different colors and stuff, or sometimes it was like tie-dye, swirly, and it was just mumbo jumbo. But if you stared at it and sort of like crossed your eyes a little bit, and you saw it just right, suddenly a 3D image would emerge or
Sure.
jump out at you, like Pluto and Mickey Mouse and and or Charlie Brown or whatever it was. Sometimes it like a cool Pegasus, and it was super 3D. And so the thing about the mind's eye magic picture that was so interesting was that you could literally look at it one way and just see nothing but a bunch of nonsense. But if you looked at it in just the right way, suddenly, an incredibly intelligent, artistic, and lovely piece of 3D art would come jumping out at you. And that's pretty cool. So I think that the Bible kind of works in that same way. I think that no matter what point in your life you're at or what subject you're interested in, and you seek counsel from the Bible, that it will be one linear story answer for you
I agree.
in one way at one particular time.
I agree.
But at another time, if you look at it in just the right way due to your maturity and your faith
It'll be
level,
something else,
that
that's for
something
sure.
very real and true
Yeah,
will just
I
become
agree, I
glaringly
agree.
obvious to you.
I agree.
And I kind of use that as one of my many compasses when I begin to undertake like reading and understanding the Bible. And I think Genesis does have physiological answers. Not that this is debatable or I could persuade somebody or convince somebody of this. I only bring it up to demonstrate that that's something that I take into consideration when I consider these things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I definitely did take that into consideration for quite a while.
But
I'm definitely open-minded as well, so...
I thought you had all sorts of stuff that needed to be covered, because I'm willing to I'm willing to go there with you.
Not really. I just wanted to point out, just because I think we danced around Genesis, but I just wanted to point out what I think Genesis 1 is about, and that every single page you look on in the Bible, it has Christ on it, and that we just neglect that, and we're in all these debates about silly things, aliens, alternate dimensions, alternate dimensional spirits, and all that, but we don't focus on just the little things, and also that Christ is on every page of the Bible, and we're supposed to be humble,
Well, don't you think that
So-
don't you think that
I feel like
The
the
fa-
older you get, the more you know you don't know. I just feel like I don't know. I don't know.
yeah, I think that's
But I'm not here to tell anyone
Confucius. The more you know, the more you don't know, for sure.
Right? I'm a semi-Buddhist.
But
Like Thomas Merton.
or Taoist or,
I'm just kidding.
or Confucianist. But don't you think that if people thought that the earth was flat and the old Hebrew model proved somehow to be true.
I don't believe you've established the old Hebrew model, because I couldn't find anything like that. I'm not a fan of the Talmud. It's, again, an Alexandrian doctrine. Though that was written by the people that were taken in captivity. That's where we get Pharisees, Sadducees, all that Jewish hierarchy. They weren't even called Jews. I mean, before they were taken into captivity, they were called Hebrews.
Don't you think, though, as far as the flat
So-
earth is concerned, that if...
I don't know about your Hebrew map, is all I'm saying.
Okay, well, there is
Flat
one.
earth.
There is one.
Okay.
And if we edit these videos and turn them into productions, we could show pictures. But most people that have looked into the flat earth on YouTube have seen these models of the Hebrewic or
I
Hebraic
haven't
way
seen that. I think
seeing the
again,
physiology.
there's a differentiation.
All right, but I have a
between
question that I'm really trying to get
the
to.
sect of the Jews that broke away from
That's simple,
the
and it
Torah
pertains to the flat Earth.
by taking on these extra laws that Jesus eschewed. He was like, "This is not the law of God. This is the law of men," and that's what a lot of Judaism became. Just like a lot of actually Christianity has
I don't
become
dispute
today.
that. But now, let's say that the world model given to us by the Hebrews turned out to somehow be
Yeah,
true.
I've not
This
heard
is
that.
hypothetical.
I don't believe
All right, the model is the four corners of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
You have the circle of the earth. Inside the four corners, you have a rakia, or you have a dome firmament, and you have
But
four
it could
pillars.
have been a figurative painting or
I have no position on anything.
Okay,
I'm just describing this for you so that I can,
because we know what year they knew the world was the globe. It was
So-
at least 4 BC.
so that
At
I can
least.
illustrate my position.
Okay.
All right, so
Before that, maybe they thought it was.
So
flat.
all right, so just bear with me here. All right, let's say I'm going to try this again. All right, but just let me run with this one.
All right.
Let's say that the Hebrew model of the earth turned out to be true. Now, all I wanted to ask was, don't you think that would have a radical, like a revolutionary impact on how many people on the planet would suddenly maybe reconsider the existence of God? Millions of people that are atheists. Don't you think that when you're taught in school that the earth is a globe, and then you have all of this mathematics, and you have all these elite intellectual languages that most common people are never even going to have access to, as a sort of an aesthetic attribute of implied authority, don't you think that when you read Genesis that you have a big problem inside yourself in reconciling the fact that the Bible is the inspired word of God and everything in it is true and God doesn't lie, and you read Genesis, and then you also try to reconcile the gravity and the heliocentric model, and doesn't that create this internal struggle, like right at the beginning? Doesn't that create an internal struggle about whether to have faith in God or not? Isn't that the beginning of that? Don't you think that possibly that is also part of the motive? If you believe in God and you
No.
believe that the world is that's hypothetical. If you believe in a world that is run by Satan, if you believe in that paradigm, wouldn't it make sense that he would, from the very get-go, use education and intellectualism in a perverse way,
Sure,
not in a
sure,
way
yeah.
that it was meant
No,
to be,
I
and
agree.
why it's good?
To some degree, he does. I think he does.
And so he creates a crack,
Yeah, a fissure.
a
Like
fissure.
the dark crystal.
Oh, yes.
When the
At the very
Skeksis and the old
beginning.
ones got separated and the shard came out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, dark crystal, and they come together of someone.
But
yeah, sure.
what I was gonna say was, oh shoot, I forgot what I was gonna say.
Well, I was saying, don't you think that if it was a flat Earth, don't you think that would have a tremendous impact?
No, because
I think it might possibly be the
Okay.
single biggest evangelical issue of the last 500 years. And if this were somehow, I'm not, like I said, this is just what I think, and it's just
I know you do.
my opinion, and I'm entitled to
I
one.
know
I'm
you
not
do.
trying to convince anybody
You
of
are
this,
entitled.
nor am I trying to.
You're very entitled.
recruit-
Conveniently, due to science and your military industrial
I'm
base.
just honestly offering up
Right.
my internal thoughts
Obviously,
to help
obviously.
you understand why I believe the things
Yeah.
that I do, and that's just
But-
another avenue into those intimate workings.
What I was going to say was it doesn't affect mine. That's why I always say I don't care if it's round or flat. Like, I
yeah,
never...
that's good. I mean, that's great.
It never affected my daily reality till I heard that this was an argument. And I was like, really? Maybe I can master this.
Well, it's never been an argument with us.
So I attempted it with you.
More or
But
less.
what I was going to say was, no, it doesn't affect my reality because when I was a kid, we had this neighbor across the street, and they were doing some excavating for some reason, and they dug this super deep pit in their backyard, and I was terrified that Satan was in that pit, so I just totally steered clear of that, and it stirred my imagination, even though I knew that the devil couldn't be that close to the surface, you know. But don't judge me. I mean, when I was in junior high and I read Dune, I thought the worms of Arrakis that there could actually be sandworms that were very large.
Well, according to some
So I am gullible.
pre-Diluvian archaeological
Oh,
finds,
goodness.
there have been demonstrations of
Thanks a lot,
giganticism.
Frank Herbert.
And we, in our bathroom, we had that periodical
Oh, gosh.
by the Catholic Church. It was like Catholic Science or something like that.
Yeah.
And one of the issues, the front cover was 3,200 pound rat.
Oh,
Its remains were found.
Oh, no.
It's
I think I might have heard of that.
fossils were found.
Yeah.
And that, so I read the article, and it said that there was a time, and if you correlate like giganticism that is referred to in the Bible at some points, this sort of like syncs up a little bit, is that prior to the flood, the air pressure in the atmosphere was far denser.
Yes, we just went to the flood.
And and because during periods of time where the atmosphere is dense, species
Giantism.
will
Because
grow
of the
to accommodate
ozone layer being thicker at that time. Is what you're thinking, right?
a more powerful pressure.
The dome
So,
zone.
like at the bottom of the ocean, what lives? Either microscopic or bacterial entities, and then huge ones. Because only both of those two size extremes can actually endure the weight of the water
Okay,
at those
sure,
depths.
yes.
And so, taking that into consideration when you consider atmospheric pressure, and that there was a period
They
prior
have
to
a lot of oxygen, though.
prior to the flood, and of
Which we
course
don't think
lots
is
and
our
lots of
atmosphere.
oxygen, yes, that there have been
Well,
fossil
maybe here.
finds which evidence the giganticism in certain species, that they weren't actually a different species of rat, it was just a larger version from one time.
Well, yeah, I mean, speciation. I don't know, like, that's just
Something to
That's
think about
just-
or research on your own.
adaptation. That's not like a change of
Don't listen to me.
species. Or, I mean, well, it's not a
For
change
heaven's
of
sake,
genus.
don't listen to me.
Phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. I don't know.
Well,
So, what does that have to do with anything?
all right. Well, you know what? Thanks for watching. We'll be back. Tomorrow's New Year's Eve. It's also our wedding anniversary.
My goodness.
We're going to come back with the most
So much nonsense.
interesting conversation you've ever
Don't
heard in your
listen.
entire
Don't
life.
waste your time, children.
I mean it.